So you're feeling burnt out and a lack of motivation keeping up your activity while selling insurance. If this describes you, then you found the right video. What I'm going to be describing is my experience dealing with burnout and eventual failure early on in my insurance career, and what steps I took to bounce back from that failure to have a surviving and thriving insurance sales business. Greetings and salutations. My name is David Duford. I own Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare, annuities, and ACA in person and over the phone. If you'd like to learn more about how my business works and how you can join, go to davidduford.com/FAQ. So I wanted to spend some time today talking about the very serious issue of burnout. It's something that all insurance agents seemingly eventually hit at some point in their career. Sometimes burnout happens pretty quick and people quit the business because it's just frankly not for them. Others, it's a matter of time of building frustration, of running a business full-time with lots of effort and having marginal results that come from it. Either way, burnout happens. It's something that I've experienced, and what I want to do today is really go through my process of burnout, how I quit and came back. And so you can guys get some, experience my story, I guess, going through what many of you probably have experienced, and then tell you what my lessons I've learned are from that burnout experience as a way to avoid the burnout, because it's something that we have to manage internally within us ultimately, so that hopefully you don't have to avoid the same end I did, thankfully temporarily, when I ended up quitting and failing out of the insurance business. So here's how my burnout story started. I actually did very well in my first 9, 10, 11 months selling final expense. Not like, top of the table type stuff, but, like top 20%. I was making money. I enjoyed it. It was something that made sense for me. It was right up my alley. But what had started to happen is I got tired of the prospects. I got tired of seeing final expense prospects that were deadbeats, that didn't want to buy what I was selling. They would rather buy smokes and booze as opposed to taking care of their loved ones with something that would give them peace of mind. And it started to wear on my soul and wear on my psyche. And that kind of stuff tends to cause me, at least it used to seek out a solution to that problem, that particular problem. And so what I devised was a new way to strategically target the same kind of prospects that I believe would be a bit more qualified. In other words, I created a new marketing program using a different lead piece than what we normally teach in the final expense business. The purpose of it really was to sell the product up front, so that the only people I would end up meeting were essentially order takers, right? Like people who already knew they needed it, they liked it, they were encouraged by it, and all I needed to do is get them to sign and kind of sell myself along the way. And while that worked to a marginal extent, it didn't do nearly as well as just buying plain old direct mail final expense leads and running appointments, and that which caused me to lose even more money than I already was, and got me into a financial pickle where I just couldn't seemingly buy more leads and run more appointments. All of this concluded, I remember the experience clearly, where I had a last appointment of the day. I was already pretty angry about being in this business and dealing with the outcomes from it. And I called an appointment, the last appointment of the day, to confirm I was coming. And the prospect said, "Oh, actually, we just bought a policy from somebody else. You don't need to come by." And I was shocked, and I said, I don't understand. You said I could come by and help you. What happened? This is funny. And the prospect said, "Well, I know it sounds funny, but it's the truth. It's what happened. Have a nice day. Bye." And she hung up the phone. And at that moment in time is when I emotionally divorced the business and decided I was completely done selling final expense. From there, I took a couple of weeks off to basically collect myself, to figure out how I was going to go work somewhere and get money in some other way than selling final expense. And then I got a job for a company called Aramark, and I'm very thankful that I got it, because it helped me see some of the follies that I didn't see from a personality standpoint working in a straight commission life insurance sales business. This first real job of mine, I had a wage, I had the potential for commissions, but what I realized very quickly is the world of working for somebody, a world of employment, is entirely different than the world of entrepreneurship. I was much worse off and sad and disappointed with myself and the seemingly lack of growth that I felt I was capable of in that starting position very early on from the beginning of working for Aramark. And a couple of months in, I decided, after kind of just feeling despondent and out of control of my life, that getting back into this business was actually a good thing. And it was good that I had taken some time off because it allowed me to consider, again, the mistakes that I personally made, how I could avoid them, and what steps I would take this time around to do it right. My ultimate conclusion after coming back, working part-time for the second time while I worked at Aramark, was that I didn't do the business right, but I could do it if I actually did right and do well at it. So I got back part-time. I took time off. I actually snuck out of the office some days earlier. I put my hours in. I did what I was supposed to. But I would go out and work 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, work till 11 or 12, 3 days a week, all day Saturday. I did this full-time for an entire year before I'd saved enough money up and got back to fundamentals, and then kissed the job goodbye, getting full-time back into selling, then recruiting within the next 6 to 12 months, and then gradually building up my agency until I got out of the business about 2017 from a production standpoint to focus entirely on agency building to arrive where I'm at today, which has been an absolute 180 from that point in my life where when I quit, the day I quit, I only had $95 or $94 to my name. So I think part of the reason my story is interesting and why you should consider listening to it is because I not only experienced burnout like you did at that time, but I've also recovered from it. But I've stayed within the same business the entire time. So I think I have a little bit of perspective that will kind of help you navigate some of these troubled waters of running a business and final expense or anything else in the insurance business, and maybe give you some advice on mentally how to align yourself with a better perspective of dealing with the business. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. I've got 5 points here that I think will be helpful to kind of mitigate and deal with this burnout of yours so that you can overcome this temporary hump in your life and so that you can ultimately get to where you want, which is a thriving business in selling and insurance. So this one was a big one for me, not accepting the good and the bad. I always thought that running a business, you should only experience good things, right? How immature. The truth is, business is a conglomeration of good, bad, and ugly. Every business has problems. Every business has successes and good things and ugly things. And the question that you have to ultimately ask yourself is not how can I get rid of the bad stuff? It's what business allows me to accommodate for the bad and the ugly as well as the good. Because if you can learn to deal with the bad and the ugly, and kind of understand and justify it, the business becomes less of a burnout issue. So for example, one of the things that really frustrated me in the final expense business is dealing with a lower income clientele that unfortunately doesn't necessarily want or make the best decisions financially, to say the least. They don't want to buy life insurance. They want to put it off till the second they die, but prior to buying it. And this kind of just like world-class procrastination type of mentality. It will drive you crazy if you have some sort of self-responsibility and personal discipline and initiative. And for me, that was always grating, especially as I didn't get results and didn't get traction. How did I learn to deal with it? Well, I kind of accepted my prospects for who they were. Again, painting with a broad brush to an extent here, of course. Not every prospect was like this. But I understood the people who I was dealing with. It was a group of people that this is just their behavior patterns. And instead of fighting it and wishing it was different, I took what I believe to be the more mature path and accepted them for who they were. That there's just going to be some people who lapse their coverage. That there's just going to be some people who are irresponsible. There's things that you can control and there's things that you can't. And knowing the difference is vital. And how to deal with that is a big deal too. We'll talk about that in a minute. But getting to the point where I could accept both the good and bad was very important in my development and staying consistent and true to the business of final expense in which I was in, and likely is going to be the case for you. There's probably some part of this business and insurance that you hate, that you're disgusted with, that you're frustrated with. Learn and think and contemplate about that. How do people who are successful deal with it? Because it's likely they're dealing with the same stuff too. Ask them, how do you deal with all these people who lapse or who frustrate you, who no-show you? And learn their kind of mindset techniques that help them deal with it. The one thing I can tell you is that a big thing in this business is having enough prospects to deal with. All sales woes in part are due to a lack of prospecting or lack of leads. If you're just not doing enough activity, the bad becomes ugly. And then when the ugly is big enough, well, that's what kind of drives you out of the business because you can't afford to be in it and you're not really seeing results, and it's just an overall disheartening process. So again, in some cases, this comes down to making sure that you have your activity problem solved so it's easier and better for you to deal with the bad side of the business. Another thing is to stop taking things personally. Guys, when these people lapse on you, when these people no-show you, when these people give you some BS about why they need to think about buying, it's nothing personal against you. In large part, not always, but in large part, a lot of our prospects in the final expense business are world-class procrastinators. They put things off forever. That's how they always have been. And in that little interim of time that they've talked with you to ask to make a commitment, they're not doing so in many cases because they personally hate you or want to make you mad or angry. They're just not sold a lot on the product, so that may be a call to action for you to better improve your scripting, your tonality, the things that help differentiate you and get people to listen. And what you'll find too is that there just simply is a paradox in the sales business. The vast majority of insurance agents hear no more than they hear yes. And they're still successful, the ones who hear enough no's, because again, they have the activity behind them that allows them to realize more yeses, which are obviously much more lucrative than a no, and give you the ability to be successful. So again, it comes back to that activity thing, and you'll find that with a lot of business and a lot of people to see, you just don't have the time to take things personally because you have this sense of abundance. There's 19 more appointments out of the 20 you're going to do, and the first one, yeah, they're a jerk, but who cares? Somebody else out there is going to be nice, somebody else out there is going to buy from me, and my life's going to go very well. Number 3, messing with the system. Also, another thing here is very important. Guys, if you have an engineering type of background, if you have a tinkering type of personality, my advice to you is to put that on pause or find something else to soak up your time from a creative standpoint. This is a boring business where we pretty much know how it works. You just buy leads and you run appointments, or you prospect for appointments and then run them. You go through the same script that you're taught and you repeat it at a high enough level, and it will produce results contingent upon your skill set and capability. So my point is, y'all, if you go into this and start screwing with things like I did, we're messing with the lead program, etc., the likelihood is very high that you're just going to lose money, compound your frustrations, and again, hasten the end as you swirl the bowl and get flushed out of the business. Number 5 here is not working enough, of course. You got to put your work in, guys. This is not a get-rich-quick business. This is a get-rich-slowly business. This is business that requires sacrifice from as far as your time goes. No, you won't be able to be home every night at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and hang out and start work at 9. You're going to have to put in 12-hour days. You're going to have to work a lot. You're going to have to go see the people. You're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable, and you're going to have to make sacrifices. You may not be able to go to all your kids' games. You may not be able to hang out with your friends as much. This is the cost of success. I don't know what to tell y'all out here. This is just what it takes. If you talk to successful people, they've had to make some kind of sacrifice at some point in their life. Now, the cool thing is as they progress and improve in their career, that painful sacrifice in the beginning many times is just eased off, and they can go back to doing those things they love to do leisurely wise, but it required that upfront price and payment of that price in order for the chance to be successful. So don't come in here with delusions of grandeur. This is business, this is work, and it requires your full utmost commitment if you want any semblance of a chance of success. And the last thing I'll mention here is that, and I've hinted this along the way, and I think this is kind of like the binding thread of all of this. Success is what overcomes burnout. So how do you become successful in this business? Well, it really comes down to following a strategy, proving the work from a sales and marketing standpoint, and scaling the activity necessary, whether it's in prospecting or lead flow, to get you enough appointments to realize success so that all of the issues that you run into are just not as magnified as they would. Again, burnout seems to happen more to, in my perspective, to people who are not seeing success than people who are seeing success. I very rarely have seen someone who's making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 plus in the insurance business say, you know what, I quit. It's just too much. I'm making so much money. Everything's perfect, but I'm going to quit because it's burnout. People usually don't do that. Are there people who do? Sure, but they're the exception of the rule. Most people who are burnt out are just basically not getting anywhere. They don't have any traction. They're failing the business, and the burnout obviously follows from that because it's very emotionally frustrating. And the way that you overcome that, and the best way I've determined, is seeing the people. It's going all in. It's being 100% committed and doing tons of activity to realize what's possible. I hope you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Again, the steps to take to deal with burnout really is just going to come to you being fully committed and going all in and seeing the people. If you'd like to learn more about joining DeFord Insurance Group, go to daviddeford.com/FAQ to learn more. If you have any comments, please leave them below and consider subscribing. Y'all take care, guys, and thanks so much for watching.